Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome to Sacred Para. If you will notice, I have a different background today, and we worked really, really hard. And when I say we, I'm talking about my team, which is my husband, my daughters, my sons. We all worked so hard to create this landscape right here. My husband built the shelves, and we got all the dolls dressed and so forth. So I am here with you live today on Saturday, and I have an awesome and amazing guest that I'm going to be sharing this space with, 1/6 World, and I'm really, really excited to be able to talk to her, find out how she does the wonderful things that she does with her photography, her dioramas, her awesome and amazing characters, and I know that you will be too. So I'm going to dial her in right now. I'm going to wave to everybody if possible. We are about to go live. So I do hope that you guys are having an amazing New Year's, because we're still in the New Year's, right? Hi! Hi, how are you?
Yay!
Yay! It is so awesome seeing you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I was trying, I didn't know how the framing was going to be, so I'm a little weird about my framing with my photo. So there we go. Let's see the doll, see me. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got it.
I
Awesome.
think we're all trying to get our framing together, huh? Because once when the screen goes up, it changes the dynamic, but yeah.
Yeah, and when you're into photographs, you have to get it right.
I know, right? It's all about framing, which it's all about the framing. So I'm really excited about talking to you today. And I know we'd already chatted earlier, and you said this was your first live, right?
It is. I actually rarely show my face on Instagram. I don't post pictures. Like, I don't do anything but the dolls, really. So this is new territory.
Well, I'm hoping that this is the first of many. We are enjoying, I know I am enjoying seeing your beautiful face. So
Oh,
I thank you
thank
for
you.
joining me. I'm serious. So thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I do admire your page very much. I first got hooked with Billy.
Oh my gosh.
That was-
Billy.
Billy is the one who really did hook me into your page, and I have just, enjoyed it ever since. But I am talking to you today, not just about characters, but also about storyline. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, what is your background as a writer?
I have none.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was totally flabbergasted.
No,
Wow. So what made you get into storyline?
Let's say that one more time.
What made you get into storyline writing? Because you could just do random pictures. You could do outside photography. You could do fashion, and
I think
writing storyline.
That's what, to me, I love good stories. I love to read. I've always been a reader. I've always made up little stories in my head, or what if the character did this instead? And when I started experimenting with doll photos, it was kind of, hey, you could also tell a story. And the first couple accounts that I followed they started as storytelling accounts. And that's what drew me in. And I was like, I could tell my own stories. And I just get ideas all the time. I don't have enough time to make them, like follow the storyline through. But that to me is, the storyline and the photography are equal. They go hand in hand. And I feel sometimes a beautiful photo is just a beautiful photo, but there's always more to it, and I want to know what that more is. So that's how it started.
I like that. I like that. You said you want to know what that more is. Now, you said that you constantly have storylines coming to you, different ideas. Where did these ideas come from? Is it
Gosh.
personal? Is it just like what you're seeing on TV, or when you
Everywhere.
go out shopping?
Everywhere is a story. So a lot of characters are inspired by my life. There's little pieces of me in each one. The lemmings, Lucy and Arthur, are very much inspired by my husband and myself. And then TV, books. I sometimes amalgamate characters that I see on TV and in books. And what if this person had a little bit of, this character from this TV show, and this plot from this movie, and just reworking it in my head. It would be interesting if, it's just a curiosity. It's this natural curiosity about life and about people, and it's a way to explore it, I think. And that can sound kind of pretentious, but that's just how it is in my head.
But I like that. A natural curiosity. Because one of the things that I believe that we lose out on as adults is our curiosity.
Yes.
Kids are constantly curious about everything. Like they have tons of questions about everything around them. And then they always have such like inventions in their head, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when we get older, we kind of lose that ability to be curious.
And that,
And
I think that ties directly to our creativity. So if
I
we're not curious, then we lose creativity, we lose the ability to play. My husband and I were really big believers in playing. You know, he collects Hot Wheels and has video games, and I have my Barbies and my, miniatures, and it's just you don't. That whole like growing up is optional. You get older, you don't have to grow up. And I
so
think
true.
it's very, very healthy.
It is. It is. And I don't know why we as a society have lost on that. And that's the beautiful thing, in my opinion, about our doll community and any of the, play communities is being able to stay in contact with that younger self. Because
Hmm.
the younger self is really who does keep you kind of like, keeps you healthy minded.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And one of the things I love about the Lemmings is that my maiden name is actually Lemons, Lemmons.
Love that. You told me that, and I was like, perfect.
So when I saw them, I was like, wow. And I do want to dig into their character more because I
Yeah.
think that they're simply amazing. But we already talked about storyline. How did you get involved with the doll community?
That I was into 1/12 scale miniatures, building those um years and years and years ago, and I kind of lost it, started being super adulty, and when my husband and I started dating, he was like, "You gotta find a hobby, gotta find a passion, gotta find a hobby." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. I gotta go to work, gotta clean the house." And I started following. It's an account called All the Little Dolls, I believe. Um, and I don't think I'm following it on my 1/6 World account, but I'll put a link to it in my stories. She would repaint her dolls. It was the first person that I ever saw repaint their faces, and she made them look natural and realistic, and she gave them these little stories, and I was like, that is so cool. I'd never seen anything like it. And then I think I stumbled on San Francisco Barbie, who we all know and adore, Andy and Clark. And
Yes.
that's kind of how I found the doll community. I was like, there are a ton of people doing this, and people are like really into it. Um, and so for Christmas, my mom got me the Star Wars doll, and I just remember staring at it, and it just something sparked, and I was like, I don't want to use this doll, but suddenly I'm seeing dolls differently, and so I started picking up some Barbies and playing around with them, and my first few pictures were horrendous. But it was almost immediately as soon as I saw the Billy doll, the BMR that we all know and see everywhere. She was the first doll. I was like, I have to have her. I knew nothing about Barbies, and I went on eBay and searched for her, and I didn't even know her name. I paid like $40 for a naked version when she was at Target for. I had no idea. I didn't know. I thought she was some rare doll. And now I have like 15 of her. But I was like, I have to have her. She has a story. I don't know what it is, but I want to photograph her.
Yes.
And yeah, so she became my least favorite to photograph, most loved character, I think.
Oh, wow. Now, why is she your least favorite to photograph?
I mean, I have a couple Dollstagram friends, and they know this, but she's so boring to me. Like her story doesn't come to me. It's always like pulling teeth. Yeah, so I have to really force her, but people responded to her because she's so pretty, I think. She photographs very well, but I just, ooh, hate her. I mean, I love her, but I hate her. So yeah.
I understand that though. I do. I do. I understand that where you can have a doll that, you know, has like really nice features. You can probably dress her up really nice, but yet it's hard to really pull out the storyline of who they
Yeah.
are. So I do understand that. Now, what made you go with her being a ballerina though? Because,
I've
I mean,
always
like,
been a
those photographs.
honest, I've always been obsessed with toe shoes. Just since I was a little kid. I mean, I danced a little bit when I was younger, but um I was just obsessed with ballerina shoes. Always have been. I've always thought they were like a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
And it was something that I wanted to make in a miniature scale. And I was like, the best way to do that is to make one of my dolls a ballerina. And the first thing I thought was, how do I connect more of the characters? How do I have a central place? In my head, the dance studio is where she meets a lot of people. I don't haven't explored there's a whole backstory in my head with the dance studio and the people, and I will never have time to tell the whole story, but it's in there. Trust me, it's rich and varied.
I and it's going to come out the way that it's supposed to. Now reason why for me seeing her as a ballerina really just just like struck a nerve with me, and I just loved it. It was a positive nerve. It's just that ballet was always such an important thing in my life growing up as a child, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do ballet, and I have a daughter right now that wants to do it, and the toe shoes, oh my gosh, it was just, it was like, how did they do that? How are they on their toes? And you find out later on that there's like that, what is it, like a block or like a cushion to kind of help them, but still it's like, how did you do that? And that's awesome balance. So I have always admired ballets. Used to go to ballet when I was younger, my mother, and that in itself is a play, just through dance and music,
Oh
without
yeah.
verbal words, but it's still a play, it's still a storyline. So when I saw, like I said with Billy, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love the poses that you did with her and the shadowing and how you use the lights. And that's what really got me involved. And although you said it is like pulling teeth, I think that you did a great job as far as exploring who she was and how she felt in her relationship with Tom and where they're at right now. And then having him go to England and, coming back, and now they're going right back to England. So that to me, you did a good job on having to extract that storyline out.
She's
And
yeah,
each character is different.
and she's done. Like this is, and people, I don't know if they probably haven't caught on to it, but we'll find this out officially next weekend. But this is the end of Billy's story. She's leaving Marinette Meadows. I will not be I'm retiring her. She's gonna live in the wedding dress. Well, one of her will live in the wedding dress that Tammy at Tam's Barbie Life made, and she'll sit on my shelf, and we might check in with her. But yeah, she's leaving. We're retiring her.
Oh, wow. That was actually going to be one of my questions. I was going to ask, when she goes to England, were you still going to showcase her life in England? But that was
No,
answered. So,
I think
spoiler
everybody.
alert.
Yeah, surprise. And I know a lot of people are like, no, we love Billy, we love Tom. We might see them, we might get like a reunion special. In my head, it's kind of like a TV show, right? The past couple years have been the first season. It's been very rocky. We've learned a lot, we've grown a lot, but it's time for the next chapter.
I understand that. Understand that. Now, I am liking, number one, the dynamic that you had. I'm kind of going off of my own questions, but nonetheless, I really did enjoy at the wedding, you had Molly, and she was kind of like hitting on the
Oh yeah.
preacher, the father. I was
Yep.
like, what?
So
How
Molly,
did that come about?
have you ever seen Fleabag?
No.
Oh, it is one of, I think it's on Amazon. It is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, the writing, the acting, it is incredible. It's one of those perfect masterpieces of storytelling. And there's a storyline about what she calls a hot priest in it. And when I was making him, I literally grabbed just any man doll that I had, because we all know Kens are hard to find.
Yes.
And I just started making his outfit. And somebody messaged me and responded to my story and said, "Oh, he's kind of hot." And just it clicked. I was like, "Oh, like the hot priest." And I looked at him in his little garb and I was like, "Yeah, he's kind of hot." And Molly's been a tough one because she's another one who doesn't talk to me, and she's always been the sidekick. She's never been her own main character.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I went with the dance thing, is that how do I get rid of Molly when I need her to leave? Oh, she's on tour. She's dancing. And so it just, when the priest came into it, her story started playing out. I got her personality a lot more. Just a lot of it came out in that kind of dynamic. And so she's going to be featured much more heavily going forward.
Yes, yes, because such, like such rich texture came out. And I was like, what? And I like that because there was a British show called Keeping Up with Appearances. It came on, it still comes on actually. It's on PBS.
I don't know that one.
PBS. And there's a lady on there named Daisy, and she hits on the father, on the priest all the time.
I don't know why.
That's what he is, the vicar. And so, because the BBC, British sitcom, and it's hilarious. And that kind of like reminded me of that dynamic. But I will have to check out Fleabag. I got it written down. But yeah, I did. I like that because usually when you have the minister at the church, especially a father, you're kind of like more respectful, and you just see you got a chance to see the rawness of who he was and her. So I like that dynamic.
What I wanted. I just wanted these two people who are otherwise so closed off. You would never know, just having this moment of like, I mean, excuse my language, but life sometimes can just be bullshit. And Molly hasn't been having the best road, and maybe there's something there. Maybe they'll commiserate. I don't know. Somebody asks, what's going to happen? Sometimes I don't know.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. Now, I know that you said you didn't know that your diorama was going to turn out like you did. Now, for all of us, because I read the comments, I saw the feedback, we're like, oh, it was gorgeous. It was wonderful. And you were like, you said this was a pain in the you-know-what, and it did not come out like you wanted it. I don't know. What was your initial thought of how it was going to come out? Like, how did you see it?
I saw it much bigger, and there was going to be separate rooms. The stone walls were going to have more depth. There's going to be a couple more layers. But when it came to the practicalities of building something like that and photographing it, one thing I've really learned this last year is when you're photographing on a smaller scale, you have to have smaller sets. It doesn't translate as well to photographs to have these big open spaces because the dolls are so small. And so, I never built my sets to scale. If it was to scale, the rooms, were 200 square feet, one bedroom. That's not, I don't think that's practical. No, that's really big. So there she goes. She's just Billy's falling down.
She didn't like what was said earlier. I don't know if she wants to be retired.
She's like, fine, I'm done. So yeah, it was. And then also the way I chose to make, like, I didn't just buy the paper for the walls, the stones. I sat there and I carved the foam board. Like every little circle stone you see, I carved that by hand into the foam board. And then I painted it, shaded it. It took forever. And it's very pretty. It did photograph very well. I'm happy with it. It was just one of those, I'm so glad it's done. It was such a pain. It was so boring at some points that I just wouldn't do it. And the wedding kept getting pushed back. And I was like, whatever, it's fine.
My goodness. But like, how long would you say that was? Was it like months?
Yeah. Because I started probably a total of at least like 15 hours on just the walls. Over time, sit down and do it for an hour, but your hand starts cramping because it's this little tiny tool, and I'm carving into it. And so an hour here, an hour there. And that was just the walls. The rest of it, I was going to do more foliage and more, moss and ivy, and just had all these little things I wanted to do. But once I started building it, I was like, I'm done. I need to photograph this. I need to move on. Like, I want everybody to see the wedding dresses. I want people are saying like, hey, is this ever going to happen? It'll happen. It's going to happen. It happened. Yay. Now we can move on. So
I agree, but it was so beautiful. And then it just created this wonderful, just romantic, mesmerizing scene. And then you were able, like you said, with the foliage, and it honestly looked like a miniature outside set. That's like outside, but yet you created all that. So it looked great.
That makes me happy. That definitely, because that was kind of the goal. I did that one other time. I'm just looking at some comments. One of my friends is commenting.
I know the hardship, but it was so worth it.
Yes, she knows. She was behind the scenes a lot. Said, you can do this. Just keep going. but I did an outdoor set when this little lifegram had a camping event for her celebrating followers. And so I built a forest on my dining room table. And that
Wow.
was one of those, like, I actually bought dirt and like was pouring dirt everywhere instead of going outside. I don't know why I did that. I was like, well, I can control it in here. It's a controlled environment. So that I probably wouldn't do something like that again. It's a lot of mess, but it's worth it.
It is. It is. I don't get a chance to do as much crafting and dioramas on a level that I would like to. So I'm hoping that as our youngest gets older, I can kind of do a little bit more. But I always admire whenever people are able to really put that time in because it does take time.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah, it does. It takes
how
a
old
lot
is
of time.
your youngest?
Oh goodness, our youngest is 8 months, about to be 8 months.
Oh my
So,
gosh, baby baby.
yeah, baby,
Oh, you
baby.
have no time.
So right now it's just, you kind of just get the Mattel stuff and then you try to make it work. But
Hmm.
I admire, whenever it's handcrafted because it's a part of who you are that you're
Yeah.
placing into it. And it looks so original. And you don't just do your dioramas, you also reroute your dolls and you also repaint them.
Sometimes, yeah, I do what I call lazy repaints. I don't think I'll ever reroute a doll again. I hate doing it. Um, oh, I hate doing it. But the repainting is, I won't repaint eyes because I'm not that talented. I've tried it. It is horrendous. Like you don't want to see it. But I like to do a lot of shading, adding depth because Mattel doesn't really do the best paint jobs anymore. Changing the lipstick, hair a little bit, but yeah, so I call them lazy repaints, just enough to make them slightly different. I think the only character I have that I haven't done that for is Billy.
Okay. Oh wow. Billy looks different though.
Does
Did
she?
you like her lips look different and even her eyes? Because I looked at her and then I looked at the Mattel promo picture and I
Hmm.
was like, she looks different as far as just it looks like you did something different with the like I said,
No,
with the lips and the eyes.
what I have noticed is because I was slightly exaggerating when I said I had 15 of her. I think I've purchased 6 of her total. Um, and a couple of them have been sent back, and then some of them come and the eyes look different, the lips look different from doll to doll, like where I don't know if they're screen printing, I'm not sure what they're doing with that particular model, but each one is slightly different. Um, so you kind of have to make sure they match just a little bit when you're using different ones. But I think that's a Mattel thing. I think maybe I just got lucky with a slightly different
Wow.
version.
That's true. That is so very, very true because they look different. And in case no one else knows, you also like you remodeled Billy's whole kitchen. I saw that and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that a lot of people have that set. A lot of people buy that. It's just like this Amazon Barbie. I've seen people customize them on Etsy all the time, and I'm trying to think of any other accounts I know that have that same kitchen off the top of my head. But a lot of them do, and so I don't like building things from scratch. I'd much rather take something that has the bones and rework them a little. Like Lucy and Arthur's bedroom was one of those Gloria doll furniture bedrooms.
Yes.
Um, so I always like for Christmas, I always ask like just find me like really cheap Barbie doll furniture, and I want to see what I can do with it. Um, or buying kits from Etsy and building those. People have like the laser wood
Yes.
headed, um, because I just building things from scratch is a pain. It's just a pain. And if I can cut corners, I am going to cut corners.
It is, but you make yours look very unique for your account
Yeah.
and dolls. And so I think that counts a whole lot as far as distinguishing your page from someone else's.
That's so
So
nice.
I do. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Now let's dig into Luce and Author. They are, of course, on the virtual flyer. Those are the pictures that you sent me, and they are such a special couple. They really, really
Love
are.
that.
One of the things that I will say that I liked was that you brought up about Luce, Luce going through her postpartum
Mhm.
stage.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
Um, I don't know what it was about exactly postpartum. It's where she was in her life. She just had a baby. one of the accounts that I just adore is Oh Hello Doll, you know, and Anne's a big fan of always making her dolls a little bit real, a little bit more raw. And when her and I talk, it's, you know, not everything's always perfect. The dolls don't always have to be perfect. If it's always perfect, it can get boring.
Okay.
And in to save time, I found myself just kind of making everything happy and nice. You know, it takes a little bit more time to think critically and how do I make this more real? And it just came to me one day. I was like, I don't think she just doesn't look happy right now. I was looking at her on the shelf and I was like, she looks sad. And well, she's had a baby. You know, a lot of women go through postpartum depression and people don't talk about it.
Yes.
There's still so much stigma around mental illness in, you know, America, and then other countries is even worse, and well, some other countries. So, you know, I think it's important. I think it's important we talk about it, and there is such a thing as play therapy, and I think
Yes.
what all of us adults are doing a little bit is that play therapy. And it's funny. It's my most commented on post. It resonated with so many women. You know, I think there was like 50 women came out and were like, yeah, me too. Thank you for sharing. And I don't have kids. I hope that, you know, if I do it, that doesn't happen. But I think talking about it is the first step. So if we can talk about it with our dolls and find other women that experience that, it's that camaraderie that we need. To get a little bit more deep, I guess.
Oh, no. Actually, I wanted us to talk about this, you know, in an in-depth level or on an in-depth level, mainly because like my husband and I, we had co-authored a book years ago about postpartum depression because that was something that we were familiar with. I went through postpartum depression, and like you said, it's not really mentioned a whole lot. It's
No.
it's definitely stigmatized. And I feel that we have learned as a society to just kind of get through it, especially as women in society. It's like, okay, I'm feeling this kind of way. My hormones are kind of, you know, changing. I'm just having baby blues. And yet that baby blues gets post, you know, it just keeps on going for days and become months and possibly years, and we don't deal with it. And so you don't just go through it, but if you have a partner, your partner's going through that with you. And when we don't allow ourselves to be educated about what our bodies are going through, what our minds are going through, we'll just accept it as if that's part of who we are.
Correct.
And
And
we kind of change, this is who I am.
yeah, and you don't have to stay there. And I think that's one of the things that people forget, you know. I think women especially, we're just kind of conditioned to just keep pushing on. No matter what's going on, you take care of people, you get your stuff done. And we lose our voices, we lose,
Yes.
you know, that connection to our core values. And then when we have kids, I think it's almost an identity crisis of self, because who am I now that I have this human that is attached to me for the rest of my life? And I think the affecting the partners is the biggest thing. Any type of mental change, you know, change in your life, it is going to affect your partner. If it's a good relationship, it's, you know, you have to dig in together and take care of it. And that's one of the things I wanted to show too, was Arthur a little bit, you know, on shaky ground, because now it's, you know, I have this image, I love my wife, she's different now. What does that mean? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for her? You know, men, as I think culturally we tend to think men as less emotional, and what I've learned in my life is they're way more emotional. They're way more sensitive. They're not in tune with it. And but men have that depth of feeling too, and we don't talk about that either. So I thought it was a good way to kind of go down both paths.
And I like how you did that. You did it with such taste. You did it with class. It wasn't judgmental. It wasn't like, oh, she's bad because she feels like that. Oh, he's bad because he feels like that. You did it literally from an objectional standpoint, so where we as the audience were able to walk through it with each one of those characters. And, you know, I know a lot of us in the feedback and the comments when we saw Arthur at the bar trying to contemplate what he was going to do. We were like, oh no, don't do it. And I saw, you know, some people got really upset. But the truth is that he didn't know what was going on with his wife. He didn't know where he was standing at in their relationship. And, it was definitely, just like a sigh of relief when we saw him come back home, make that decision to stay married to her and just, stay a steady partner. So I
Yeah.
was glad that you did, bring that element in there, because a lot of times people do start to question, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I in this relationship? You're not needing me the same. You're kind of in your head more. You're not really talking to me the same. And so then it kind of made him feel isolated, because literally when you become a parent, and especially when your kids start talking, you don't go by your first name anymore. I'm mom. My husband's dead. We don't, we call each other our first name. But like you said, there is this identity crisis. It's, who am I now? Who have I become? And now, of course, they are expecting again.
They are. You got
I think
little
it's great. I think it's great.
Lucy back here. So we're going to actually be doing a time jump,
Okay.
and we're not going to go through her pregnancy. That's one of the other great things about storytelling is there's you make the rules. And so I'm like, I don't want to do the whole pregnancy thing with Lucy. I don't want to either. So we're just going to skip forward. Tilly's a toddler. They have a baby, and I can build a new nursery and I'll be happy. So um, this time might be a little smoother. There's going to be other challenges, obviously, as all parents go through. But I think that Arthur coming home, that decision, is kind of an analogy or a representation of that's what love is. You just choose to show up every day. You choose to go
Yeah.
home every day, and yeah, they're my favorites. I never say never, knock on wood, but I probably would never, for if the people watching, I would never break them up. So rest assured
Good.
they'll be okay.
Good. Good. And you do, and like you said, it's a choice. You choose all the time in order to be consistent. And that was
Mhm.
something that actually my husband and I had a conversation about today about, we were talking about actually posting on IG and our inconsistencies. And
Uh-huh.
then it's like, what though, where it really matters is that we're consistent in showing up for each other and for our household. And that's
Yeah.
really what's important when you're married or you have any kind of partnership, showing up for each other, being consistent, and knowing that every day you're choosing to stay, you're choosing to love, and that's important.
Amen.
It's important.
Yes. Amen. And that's all of this, everything we do, the fun stuff, the IG. I know a lot of people are much, much more into it than I am, much more consistent. They have more followers. That's not my priority. My priority is my husband, my home, my family, my job. This is just the fun stuff. This is the stuff that gets to enhance it when I have the time for it. And looking at it that way instead of trying to force that I need to post every day or I'm not being consistent or I take these little breaks. Removing that pressure has made it that much more enjoyable.
I agree. I agree with you so much. And I believe that also probably helps as far as having different storyline ideas, because the pressure's not there.
Exactly. When I took the pressure off of, Billy and Tom have to be featured because that's who people love, then Molly's story popped out. Molly was like, I don't want to be I want to be my own main character.
Yeah.
But Billy bores you. Look, I'm gonna possibly have an affair with a priest. Like, don't you want to tell that story? Um, okay, gosh. All right, Molly. I guess Billy could be retired then. So it's and getting new dolls, finding new dolls, customizing new dolls, that helps too. Yeah,
Did
it's
you sew? I found out that you sew too.
no, I do not.
No.
No.
Oh my goodness.
What did
Okay.
I
No,
say?
someone I can't think what the account was, but they had an outfit and they had said that it
They
came from
sewed
one
it?
Walt. And I was like, what? She sews. I should have wrote down the name of
No.
the account.
No, somebody recently tagged me in something, and I don't remember who it was, but I remember thinking they were saying like, oh, they helped me do this or this or that, and I don't remember. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Somebody tagged me in yeah, it was an outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were tagging me like, thank you for telling 16World told me about this account.
Okay. I was like,
I
oh.
no. No. I've tried sewing. My mother can attest. No, it's bad. It's really bad. I go to the people who actually can do it. Which, I have some places that I absolutely love for more authentic, quality clothes because like the priest's outfit, I just hot glued that onto his body. I'm telling you, I am a lazy crafter. It's all duct tape. Behind the scenes, it's duct tape and popsicle sticks.
But it works out so good.
Well, for photography, it can,
Yeah. Yeah,
that was one of the
functionality, being able to use it again, probably not. But
we can little extra spit and duct tape might be able to use it again.
there you go.
So
But
one of
it
the one of
works
the,
great.
the things I asked for Christmas was a room box, like a interchangeable modular, so I could just instead of having to work with foam board and try to, you know, build these intricate rooms out of foam board. So that's on its way from Russia. Should be here soon. So that'll be nice to make it a little easier.
Yes, yes. I'm with you on the room box. It makes things a lot easier, especially being able to just have things set
Hmm.
and come back to it. That's like my aspiration. So I'm with you on that. When do you photograph?
When I have time, usually on the weekends. And so, like the wedding, all the pictures were taken obviously at once. And I, tore it down. The diorama's down. I still have some pictures to share. So what I try to do when I put up a set is, like the Lemmings, their living room it takes me probably a good 45 minutes to build every time because there's so many little details. So if I'm going to set that up, I'm going to try to get at least one or two stories out of it. However, having those stories ready to go is challenging. So sometimes we'll just take generic pictures and see if they can fit somewhere. But usually what it is I get an idea, and that idea involves a certain set. And then I have to pull all the bins out of the garage, build the set, where the lighting is good, because the lighting is only good in the living room. It's not good in the bedroom. It's not good in the craft room. So my poor husband, right in the living room in the corner. And I build it, photograph it, and then I tear it down and I put it away. And then I think later, oh, I should have gotten that shot in that set. Oh, well, it's gone. I'm not building that for a while. So that's why my sets are so intermittent. Like you'll see the bar. You're not going to see the bar again for another 6 months. That's a pain to build. I don't want to do that again.
I understand. I do. And that's one of the things too. I can't remember. I think I just saw today about lack of space. Like, it was on Vintage Claire's page. She was showing photos of where she has dolls located. And she was like, does anyone else have the same issue? And people were like, oh yeah, my whole living room's gone. My table in my kitchen's gone. Because we're trying to find space to be able to, craft and do our pictures and set up our dioramas. And just like you said, having to take them, setting it up and then taking it back down, it takes time. It
Yeah,
takes
and
time.
you got the crafting and the building and then the photos, and they're all three separate. And my husband has a hobby that takes up a lot of space, so the spare room is just there's no room to do anything in there. So yeah, it kind of takes over your life. You want to have friends over. They either have to be really comfortable with like random headless Barbies laying around or put them away.
Oh, I
Um,
totally understand. I totally understand. I got one right here without a head. So yeah.
So someone asked, is that room box specifically designed versus ones on Amazon? Yes, I bought it from Wooden Tales, Tales, workshop on Etsy, just so they know. It's a modular. The walls are separate, the floors are separate. So I didn't know Amazon had them. Now I have to go look at Amazon. Thank you very much. Uh,
Okay. So
I
when
just
you
saw
said
that.
Wooden Tales Workshop, that's on Etsy.
They make
I'll
great
put that
stuff.
in the caption. Okay. I'll put that in the
So
caption.
I don't know who asked that because I don't know. Can you see all?
So unique.
Instagram be
Love
acting crazy.
dolls. Can you see all the
That's
comments?
Yeah,
Instagram
that's
be
the
acting crazy.
first one I saw. Oh,
So
I
we
can
can
scroll
definitely.
through. Okay. I know, I just keep seeing that same comment. I don't know. Instagram,
Real life
whatever.
comes
Sorry if I
first
missed
over
your question.
hobbies. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. But yeah, we will definitely leave some time for some questions. I think
Okay.
there may have been one more question that I saw. I'm trying to think. So yes, if you have a question, just put it right there in that question box where there's just like a little box with a question, if you can type it in there, and then it makes it easier to go to as far as just organization.
Oh,
I'm
I see
trying to
that.
flip to it, and I think I saw a question earlier, and I don't know for sure. But yes, so we will put the room box in the caption as well,
Okay.
so that someone can know. And that was Wooden Tales Workshop. So
Hmm.
make sure to put that in there. Question about scripting. Do you script ahead of time, or do you just kind of script yours
Um,
as you type your, as you post, I should say? Do you just
I
type
don't
it out as you
I
post?
don't script it. Yeah, I just after I take the pictures, like I know the general story or what I want to get across, but I don't actually write it out until I've edited the pictures and arranged them. Sometimes, I have like this person's going to say this, so I need shots of her, him, but the actual writing doesn't happen until I'm about to post it. Rarely do I even, sometimes I'll type it out separately, like on a notepad, but most of the time it's when I get the pictures because I know people don't like reading captions, not everybody. The people who follow the story just blows my mind. The fact that like about the bar and Arthur not come, is he going to come home and like all these details that I'm like, really? Like that's so cool. Somebody follows that closely. It's humbling and flattering and just so kind. But yeah, I don't like
You have a
spoon
really
feeding.
good storyline. You just
Thank
do.
you.
And then your
Um,
photos are just amazing with it. So yeah.
um, it'll come. It comes to me. And one of the things that I hate when I'm reading a story is that kind of force spoon feeding. Like you don't need to spell it out for people sometimes. You can just have little bits of dialogue that gets the point across. It doesn't always have to be so in your face. Like a little bit of breadcrumbs. They'll follow the trail. The story will come out eventually. So that's kind of what I try to do. I try to keep it a little bit more simple. In the last couple of months, I've really tried to streamline it because I can be a little chatty, a little verbose sometimes. So trying to rein that in, I think, also keeps it more engaging.
I agree. I agree. I recently said I was going to make some changes with my own storyline. So I fully understand you as far as just like time management, and then also being, courteous of your readers and their time. And then for me, certain storylines have just kind of dragged on more than what I wanted. than I initially wanted. So my goal for this year is to still have my storyline, still have some drama, but being able to just kind of like minimize it, just kind of compact it, so
Yeah.
that I can kind of get it across in 3 posts without having to post for weeks on the same subject. So that's where I'm at with it myself. So I fully agree with you. What would you say, since we are talking about storyline writing, what would you say is a pro about storyline writing as well as a con?
I think the pro is just that getting to express that creativity, get your wiggles out, get your anything that might be like festering or it gives us a chance to tell the stories that we want to see that we're not getting to see somewhere else. So the good stories are always, not that mine are original, I take inspiration from everywhere, but it's not just a carbon copy of what you're seeing on somebody else's account or somebody's TV. So, and it gives you a little peek into their soul. You get to share a little bit of yourself. I think that's really cool. And I think the cons would be kind of that pressure to come up with the content for sure especially when you don't, and at least everybody I've talked to on Instagram knows this. They feel this is you just go through those lulls where you're not feeling as creative. The pictures aren't coming, the story's not coming, and you just kind of not feeling it, and it's the worst feeling in the world. But one thing I've learned is it's temporary. It could be could last a month, could last a year, but it's temporary. So I think that's the hardest part is that frustration.
I agree. And I'm glad that you did say that, because someone had just recently posted about, like, what do you do when you just feel kind of like, you just And there were so many people who gave their advice and, commented on how they are able to resolve that feeling and, and normalized it. Just like you just said, we all kind of go through that. What do you do right then? And I definitely know what that feels like. And I think it's just like when we have so much creativity festering in us, and then you have to balance that with responsibilities. And of course, you're going to prioritize your responsibilities first.
Mm-hmm.
And you come to a place where creatively you're just kind of burnt out.
Yeah.
And you can look at a storyline and say, my characters need to do this next, but I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like taking the pictures. I don't feel like writing the content. And I'm glad that you did say that that is temporary.
I,
Because,
in my experience, it's happened to me. I mean, I've only been doing this 2 years. Um, and every time it's happened, it's been temporary. It's always a circumstance, like life gets crazy, life gets busy. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have plenty of time and it's just not there. And what I found that works the best is just let it be, like lean into it. You don't force it. You don't want to take the pictures, don't take the pictures. You're not feeling creative? Okay, go do something else. Watch a movie. Watch a new TV show. Maybe it'll trigger something. So go out into the world, talk to somebody different. I think the creative types need new experiences to keep the, again, it goes back to curiosity, when my husband he does music, and when he gets really frustrated and he's not feeling it, but he knows he wants to be creative, it's okay, we got to go do something new. Got to go to a new town, new city, go see a new movie, just shake it up a little somehow. And that, it always works, at least for me. So maybe
I
it'll work
agree.
for somebody.
I agree with you. And honestly, when we talk about mental health, that's one of the things that is actually, put out there as a pointer. Do something new.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes doing the same thing can get you to a place where you're just stagnant and you're bored, and you think that it's you when really you're just your spirit wants to do something different. Your inner self is just like, I'm ready to do something fun, something that's going to be out of the box that I haven't done before. And just like you said, you never know what kind of new characters you can get from that, what kind of new storylines you can get from that. You can see some fashion. You may have a doll that you're just like, what do I do with this doll? I don't know. Like, I got this one right here. I don't really play with Rainbow High that often, but nonetheless, like, what am I going to do with this doll? And then you see someone, you're like, oh, I kind of like that fashion that would fit for her. So, yeah, I agree with you. Get out. Get out.
Yep.
See what's out there for you.
Out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have one more question before we take any questions.
Okay.
I have one, which is, how do you balance having multiple characters? Like, how are you able to write for multiple characters and have different voices for them?
That's a really good question. It's also a really tough question. That's a good question. So I don't know. There are some characters that just, they're there, they're instantaneous. Lucy was, I mean, she is the easiest. She told me, when people say that, like, oh, the doll's talking to you. But no, I had her story, I had her person, her fashion, how she spoke, what she was like, her entire backstory, like her brothers, her family, her childhood. I know it all. It's just there. She was just there. So she's easy because to me, it's like I've read her book already. I've read her entire book up until this point. I know her. It's a book series I've read a million times. She's good. The other ones I know a little bit. Like, I'll say, okay, this is kind of their age range. This is their little bit of their backstory. And then one of the things that really helps me is the doll clothes. That I have found is when I started, I started giving each doll their own little box. And so they live in this box when I'm not using them. This is Lucy's. And when I see, instead of them sharing clothes, that confused things. So to keep them separate, they have their separate shoes, their separate clothes. It can be more expensive that way, but it also, I think we tell a story how we present ourselves to the world, how we choose to dress and do our hair and whatever it might be. And So if we're talking about dolls as they're people or they have characters, it would be the same. Um, and, you know, I had made Billy's sister. She had a whole story that didn't play out yet, but she was a curvy body, and she was my first curvy body. And the reason I hadn't gone into curvy bodies is because I didn't want to have to buy a whole separate doll wardrobe because it's expensive. Um, and so I was like, all right, well, she's gonna have to have her own wardrobe, and that kind of spurred this whole, and that's how Molly started getting her personality. Because then I was like, what would Molly wear? What's Molly's style? Um, and that really helped. That really helped me out of a creative rut too. So,
Wow. Okay.
so the clothes, I got the clothes, and um, I just kind of know. I just kind of know that I want to see a little bit of this character engaging in this type of relationship, or um, this character is suffering from this, or you know, has joy because of this. Just exploring the different emotions, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. And that's important because we are emotional creatures.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the storyline. We're talking about emotions, like how do they respond whenever they are caught off by surprise? You know, they're caught by surprise, or how do they respond whenever, you know, everything's going really good and they're happy? How are they when they're sad? And their clothes would be, you know, an effect of that as well. So I'm really, really liking that you said each one of them have their own bins, and so they're not sharing clothes.
Yeah,
Um, and that does help. That
it
does help a whole lot as far as defining who they are.
it really does. I mean, something that Lucy would wear, Billy would never touch in a million years. You know, somebody commented one time, they're like, "Why does Lucy look so much older than Arthur? She looks like an old lady." And I was like, "Does she?" I was like, "Is it because I'm dressing her too old?" But I was like, "No, that's who Lucy is. Lucy's like the 80-year-old lady who was born, you know, in a baby's body, and she's just gotten older since then." So um, that's actually a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, that means that you're doing your job. And I don't really see her as an old lady. I just see her more as like, she just seems more reserved. She has like a
Hmm.
calm personality. She already knew, like to me, she already has who she is defined. And I think that's why that postpartum kind of like threw her off,
Hmm.
that stage, because she already had defined in herself, like, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a family. Like, she just seems very family oriented.
Yes,
And so
very.
being family oriented, she's not worried about trying to look like a pit up model. She's
Mm-mm.
more like, I want to, you know, I want to take care of my home. I want to make sure that I'm nurturing to my husband and to my, you know, my child and my children. And I, you know, that this is a stress free zone as much as possible. That's what I get from her, just vibe wise.
That's absolutely. Lucy's core values are hearth and home, you know. Molly's core values are different. They're adventure and creative expression, you know. Billy has none, and that's why she's being written off the show.
Oh goodness. Well, like with Billy, in all fairness, it seemed like, you know, that I thought that she was like wanting to be like a prima ballerina initially.
So the funny thing is, once I decided to write Billy off, I started getting more from her. I don't know if it's like her clinging, like, don't get rid of me. Look, I'll tell you things. But um, Billy, Billy's kind of a failed prima ballerina. You know, Molly's the one who was successful. Molly's the one who tours. You know, she is the first ballerina for the company. And Billy, you know, fills in sometimes. Billy's more of a teacher. That's what she studied in college was, you know, early childhood development and dance. And so she really likes teaching dance, but she's kind of, you know, her Billy's backstory is her parents died when she was younger, so she has a ton of money, inheritance, whatever trust. So she's never had to flounder that way. She's never had to struggle financially. So she's never really had to worry about what to fall back on. And I think sometimes that can leave people devoid of uh, a greater purpose. And so I think Billy's just kind of a failed ballerina and she doesn't know what her next steps are. And um, so now I'm almost like, ooh, maybe I build a little London set and we just check in on Billy from time to time, but who knows? We'll see.
Okay. Okay. So she's still in limbo, which is fine with us.
Maybe.
But I do, in all fairness, I do like the fact being that you have this perspective that if someone has to be retired, so that my storyline can still go on, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think so often we can, hold on to a character too long, like
Mm-hmm.
with writing or, like with our dolls, and they're no longer serving a purpose. We're not engaged with them, but we just have them there because, like they're the fan favorite, or they were our first Barbie that started the account. I know I'm guilty of that because I still got some dolls in there that I don't really hear the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like trying to figure out how to keep them involved because they started off my account.
They
But
don't have to be.
yeah,
This Let them have a
and I
rest.
shared that yesterday. I was like, you know what, things are going to be a little different. And yeah, and I
Yeah.
fully agree with you.
Sometimes we
If
gotta
I'm
let
not
people go.
changing,
Sometimes we gotta let the dolls go. It's fine, you know.
you're right. You're very, very right. And I'm glad that you said that because it does kind of symbolize what we do in our own real life.
That's what I'm
Holding on
finding.
to stuff and holding on to people when it's time to let them go.
Hmm.
And I'm glad that you did bring that up. So yes, 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 that's encouragement for me. I shared yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna do things a little bit different, even with my Gloria. She's over here. Usually, she's with me, but I'm just gonna do things a little bit different because there's other stories
Hmm.
that need to come out.
And you can't move on to the next one if you keep rereading the old one, right? So they just
All
need
right.
sometimes the dolls need a little rest, and that's fine.
I do. I agree with you. So I support whatever you do. If you decide to do a
Thank
London
you.
set, I support. If you decide that, it's time to retire Billy because there's so many other ideas out there, I'm ready for that. I'm ready, like I said, to see more of what Molly has in store because I said, oh, wow, she has a lot more going. She's got this bad girl vibe going on, huh?
A little bit. You know, we don't know Molly. Let's learn about Molly.
So I'm excited about it. You do have one question. Let's
Okay.
see. You So Unique loves dolls. Thank you again for joining today. She said, when you write your storyline, is it better to write out each character line or to use bubble conversations?
Um. So like I'm assuming the like bubble in the picture kind of thing. Um. That's a personal preference. What I think that's the thing is there's no better, there's no right, there's no wrong. What do you want to see? You know, when you're scrolling through Instagram, what's easiest for you to read? Like if you want to read a doll story, would you prefer it? Does it make more sense to you to have the bubbles above people, or does it make more sense to have the text below? Um, when you put the bubbles in the picture, it forces people to read the text, right?
Yes.
Otherwise they can just skip through. Um, but if you are coming at it from a photography standpoint, it interferes with the integrity of the picture. So it depends on what's more important to you. And that's kind of are you here for the story or are you here for the picture? So I think it's personal preference. I personally like doing mine the way I do them because the more I do this, the more I get into the what's the word I'm looking for? The fundamentals of photography, the rules, if you will, of photography. And so lighting and framing and shadows and depth and all of that stuff that's what I want to see. And so I want my
Yeah.
text below to keep the image kind of simple. But that's my preference. So I say, do you, as the kids say.
I agree. I agree, but I like that breakdown. I like that breakdown. And I mean, for me, I follow accounts that have the dialogue and the caption, and I follow accounts that have the bubble. But I do agree with you. It's really up to you on what your preference is as far as how you're going to do that. Now, I do want to say one thing. I want to say that your name is so creative because we talk about 1/6 scale.
Yes,
And of
one
course, you have
six
1/6.
world. So
So
that was my
I just wanted to comment that. I was like, I don't know where she got the name. I know where, like 1/6 scale, but I was like, that's still so creative how you
So
did that.
I think I tried for 1/6 scale because I was coming from doing 1/12 miniatures years ago, and then I realized, oh, Barbie's have a different
Oh,
scale. And so my husband was the one who said, you need to put what you're doing in the title. If you're doing miniatures or something, put it in there. And I was like, well, I could do 1/6 scale. I think that was taken. And I think is it 1/6 Avenue? She just came back. She was on a long hiatus. One of my absolute favorites.
Yes.
I didn't find her. I saw the name was taken. Um, and then, or I,
Oh
because I was
yes,
searching.
16th Avenue.
Yes. And so I was searching 1/6. I was like, oh, somebody did 1/6 Avenue. That's clever. Wish I had thought of that. And so I was trying to find like 1/6, like town, people, dioramas. I was just trying to fit in a word. My husband was like, what about world? Like, you want to create this little mini universe? I was like, oh, I could do that. Anything creative that has ever happened, like the Lemmings, their name, it's my husband names things. He named the town. He's very involved. So I give him credit for that.
Oh goodness, I love it. I love it. If you've heard me talk during my lives, I always talk about my husband being involved, and I think it makes it so much easier,
Mhm.
to be able to have that partnership, which also, shows the benefits of being married, of
Oh yeah.
being in a partnership. If you're not married, but you have that kind of partnership where you guys are supporting each other, because there's already so many stressors going on.
Hmm.
And so whenever you come to a place where you're like, I'm gonna embrace this hobby so that I can feel more free. Whenever you have someone else in your life who says, I'm gonna embrace it with you and who supports you in it, oh my goodness, it's just like this breath of fresh air.
Oh
And they
yes.
see different dimensions that you don't. And I fully agree with you as far as just like with the naming and all this other stuff. It does it works wonders. I have a character named Kai who he's a surfer. Got this other guy that my husband got. It's a bland doll that I'm going to try to rebody. And actually, Oh Hello Doll was the one who told me about how to rebody him. And because he's just on a straight body right now. And my
Yeah.
husband saw him, he was like, oh, that looks like a Levi. I was like, dude, I like that. I didn't even know what I was going to do with him. He was just like, that could be Kai's brother. I was like, you're right. So it does. It helps so much whenever you have someone that's there that's like, when are you going to do this wedding? I thought you were going to do a wedding. And just
Yeah.
kind of like keeps you involved with, having your own personal freedom and your own personal hobby, your own personal thing that you're doing to help you stay focused. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I
Get
commend.
you a husband that plays with your dolls with you.
There you go. There you go. It makes a difference. It does. And I see so many different people on here and they're like, oh, my husband customized the car. He did this. And it does. It helps so much because he's also being able to get in touch with his own inner child, you
Yeah.
know, and playing is important. That's just the bottom line. Playing is important. I don't think that we put enough, and we talked about that earlier, enough emphasis on the importance of play, on the importance of being able to get in touch with your inner child so that you can deal with all these other people
Exactly.
and responsibilities that's outside of it. So I'm with you on everything that you're saying about having that kind of support and partnership. Because if you have
Absolutely.
someone that's just like, oh, that's a child's thing, why are you doing that? Yeah,
No.
no,
No,
no.
you gotta support each other. I mean, life's too short. Just be happy, Do what makes you happy.
Yes, yes. It's not hurting anyone. If anything, these storylines and the way that the dolls are constructed and designed, it helps people.
Mm-hmm.
There may be somebody who saw Luce and said that she dresses like an 80-year-old woman, but there may be someone else who is around our age and who dresses more conservative.
Conservative. Yeah.
Yes. And they need to know it's okay to not show your belly button and have no, I'm not
Yeah.
knocking on anybody. No, because that's what you like to wear, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
Do
they
you?
need to know it's
Billy,
okay to
Billy's
still
gonna
be
show her belly.
conservative.
It's fine.
There you
Everybody's
go.
different.
Everyone's different. And there may be someone who's like, oh, why do you dress so old? But then when they see Loose, they're like, okay, it's okay for me to be family oriented and to be, wanting to dress in a way that's modest and conservative. So they need to be able to know that. And that's what your account does. It reflects that.
Yeah.
And like I
Thank
said, the
you.
one with the postpartum, you didn't know that everyone was going to, be in your comments, including myself, that was like, oh, I've been there. Thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that up. So by us exercising our our writing talents and everything else, when it comes to you doing your dioramas and your crafts and having your dolls individually designed with their clothing, it makes a difference for your audience who need that. Even if
Oh,
it's just a laugh. Like we saw Molly and it just cracked us up.
and everybody was like, "Yay, they're responding!" It brings you so much joy when people connect to it. You know, it's such a humbling thing. It's amazing.
It does. It does. And we're not knocking Tom. I know Tom didn't get talked about a whole lot. Um,
He's just as boring as Billy. He's mopey. He is. He's a mopey doll. Everybody loves him. And I'm like, okay. I mean, he's cute, but he's boring.
he's cute. He's a good character. I mean, I like all your characters. I think that he's a good character. He just, I'm hoping to see, was it Sage? No, it was Ash. Ash and, oh goodness, it was Ash.
No, I don't. Do I have? I don't have an Ash.
Ash and Joe. Is that what it was? Because they have, I think it's Ash and Joe. I was like, oh, I so hope red hair. The guy with the red hair.
Oh, Jonah.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that Billy used to date, that dated Billy's sister.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I can't stand that doll anymore. I don't know what it is. I hate his face. His just stupid face, his stupid red hair. Like, I just don't want to look at him. I love redheads.
He said it's just his face mode. You're just done with it.
I'm tired of it. Something happened with that character. He became this whole thing, and then he just became this doofus, this utter doofus in my head. And so he might come back just to be the butt of some jokes. We'll see.
Well, I am really enjoying your story. Like, if you guys have any comments or questions, definitely link it right now. But I am enjoying where your storyline is.
Anybody's welcome to message me at any time for any reason. I will literally tell you if you want to know what's going to happen with the character. I will spill the beans. I'm not a gatekeeper, as they call it nowadays. I don't have a lot of free time. I have a very busy job. So on the weekends, shoot me a message. I'm happy to chat anytime. Any questions?
Well, I appreciate you for doing this. I
Thank
enjoyed
you
our
for the
conversation.
invite.
Oh my goodness, yes. I think like I said, thank you for saying yes. I've enjoyed our conversation. Someone said Billy lacks passion. Arts and Dolls 23.
Billy lacks passion. Right, Deandra. That's she is a dear friend of mine. She was one of the first people I ever actually talked to on Dollstagram, and has actually become just such a big part of my heart. I love her dearly. She knows Billy very well. I've had many conversations about how much I hate Billy. So she knows, and she's always trying to soften, like, you don't hate her. You don't hate her. She's closed off. It's fine.
Oh goodness, I understand that though. I do. There's just some characters that you want to relate to when you want to explore their storyline, but like you said, they're not speaking to you. And you're kind of just having to like put pieces together to make it work, and then you just feel like, am I really writing the story that's best for you?
Yeah, don't force it. That's the bottom line, I think, of what I've taken from this conversation. Don't force it, and make sure you play enough.
Yes, and play with the right ones. I like that you, like I said, after talking to you today, it's made it a little bit easier for me as far as if I need to retire some storylines, retire some of my dolls. I like that you said retire. I like and move forward, because I have plenty of dolls. Like, these are some of them back here, and there's some in boxes. They're just scattered about. So it's like there's plenty of other dolls if I need to create a new storyline. And my thing is, I'm wanting to focus more on the mini me that I created. I'm like, I want to focus on that storyline. And yeah, so some other dolls are just going to take a little back seat or retire.
Exactly. Maybe they go on an extended vacation. Maybe it's not permanent. But again, there's no rules to it.
There isn't. And you said that, and I'm actually going to quote that on the bottom of that one of the greatest things about storytelling is that you make the rules. So I'm going to be putting that in the caption, because that is an excellent perspective, is that we do make the rules.
I'm so glad. This was so much fun. I was so nervous for this, but it was great.
It was. So we'll definitely do this again. I'm looking forward to the rest of your storyline. I'll be checking out these last photos for the wedding. And we'll put the information, like you said, the Wooden Tales workshop. I'll put that down in the bottom. And I don't see any other questions or comments. So
Okay.
I want to tell you thank you again. And
Thank
you guys,
you.
you have a really good Saturday.
You too. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.